So Dave was on the rum and cokes, and he was eating chicken and rice or something, whatever it was he was eating. Dave loved his chicken and rice, and my appetite just suddenly disappeared. And I just want to take it up and walk out. And Dave's seen that, and he goes, "No, Carl." He goes, "Stay with me." He says, "Just sit with me. Dick will be in shortly." He goes, "We'll have a bit of crack. Everything will be okay." And I said, "What's up, Dave?" Just the same usual bullshit with Sue was his answer, and I was fuck. And me and Dave were talking away, and I glanced up a couple of times, and Fiona was looking down, and she was talking to customers and stuff, and she smiled down, and I ignored her. I just kind of blanked her and stuff, and the next thing I could hear, because Sue and about eight other women, Chris and Tish and like all these other people, Tamara and all these, were sitting out on the decking outside, and I could hear Sue, "Yeah, go on, I dare you, like this." And Dave had his back. He was turned to me. He was facing me slightly, so he had his back. He couldn't see. There's Chris, I think her name was Chris, blonde American woman, came walking in, all plastic, all fake tits and fake face, and just a fake personality. And she came walking in, and she had a drink in her hand, and she came down to where me and David was, and she said, hey Dave. And Dave turned, and she threw a glass of water in Dave's face and just laughed at him and turned and walked off. And Dave just kind of like dropped his head, and she did this in front of customers. Now Fiona was the manager, and she should have said something. She should have went up and she should have said something to Chris, or even told Chris to leave the restaurant. So Dave was covered in water, ice, and the floor was just all wet from where she poured this, basically this pint of water on Dave. And Fiona didn't look shocked or anything, and I looked at her, and I says, "What are you going to do about this?" I says, "Are you the manager?" She goes, "Yeah." I said, "What are you going to do about this?" And she just kind of shrugged her shoulders, and then she called one of the girls out of the kitchen and asked to get a mop and bucket and a towel for Dave. And the girl came over and she cleaned the floor, and she handed a towel to Dave, and Dave wiped his face, and Dave sat there with the weight of the world on his shoulders, hunched over. Dave was usually big chested, straight back, walked like a Marine, which he was, you know what I mean, and very proud. And Dave was slumped, and he looked like Atlas. He looked like he had the whole world on his shoulders and stuff. And my fucking temper rose. And I felt myself tensing. And Romeo was behind the bar, and I says, "Romeo," I says, "Can I get a bucket of ice water, please?" And he looked at me, and I says, "Romeo, get me a bucket of ice water, or I'm going to come down there and get it." And Fiona was looking, and she didn't hear what I'd said. And so there were silver buckets that they would put a bottle of champagne in, and they were about a gallon. And I says, "Throw some ice cubes in it," and I says, and fill it with water. And Romeo just looked at me, and I says, fill it now, Romeo, and give it to me, or I'm going to come around the bar and get it. So he reluctantly did this, and he handed it to me. And Sue and everybody outside, there was screen nettings that were dark, so I didn't know if they saw what was going on anyway. And I took the buckets. I said, "Dave, I'll be back in a minute." And I took the buckets, and they're all laughing when I got out there. And I walked over to where Chris was sitting, and I fucking poured the bucket over. I just didn't say nothing. I just picked it up and I just fucking threw it at her, and she just was absolutely drenched in it. And then all of a sudden the laughing stopped, and I just glared at Sue. I glared at her, and I said, "You think that's fucking funny?" I said, "To treat your husband like something you fucking stood on and you're gonna scrape off your shoe." I said, "To fucking entertain your friends." I said, "You fucking slag." I said, "I hope you fucking get cancer again and fucking die." And she just looked at me, her eyeballs came out, and everybody at the table was like this. And Chrissy, that she was giving you, "I should go fuck yourself, or I'll throw you over the railings." I went absolute banzai. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that Sue had told her to do that in front of everybody in the restaurant. People could have just got up and walked out, and people were just sat aghast. They were sitting nobody spoke. And I remember there was, 8 square tables, and all those tables were full. There was 4 seats in them, and all those tables were full. And Fiona, she just looked at me as I came walking back in, and her mouth dropped open. And I looked at Dave and I says, come on, Dave, we're going. I says, come on, we're going. And Dave just looked at me and I says, come on, we're going, mate. I says, go in, get your t-shirt, and we're gonna go downtown. And as we passed him, Fiona says, goodbye, Colin, and I just looked at her. And I just walked out, and she says goodbye, Dave, and Dave says, see you later, Fee. And we walked out, and I says, Dave, you go next door now and change, we're gonna go downtown. And he goes, oh no, Colin, I better go in with the boys and stuff, come on in. And I says, Dave, I'm never going in there again. I says, I'm never going in the restaurant again. I says, I'm fucking done, mate. I says, fucking sick of this absolute fucking bullshit, you know what I mean? I says, why didn't you tell me something was going on? And he goes, oh, he says, because I knew how you'd react. And I said, what's going on, what's happening, And Sue had just turned nasty, really nasty, when she survived cancer. And I always thought to myself, somebody who has had a second chance at life of surviving 2 different types of cancer, breast cancer and ovarian cancer, and had survived that and went through, nearly a year and a half of chemo and radiotherapy, or however long she went through it, she would have had a different perspective and an outlook on life, and would have been more grateful that she was still alive. But it just turned her into a fucking nightmare. And I just wasn't having it at all. And they sat out there, and I could hear that I'm gonna fucking tell George, and George is gonna come down, and George is gonna bust Colin's face, and he's gonna fucking kick his ass. And I went to where she was sitting down below, and I said, fucking get him. I shouted up, fucking get him, you fucking gobshite, slag, whore, cunt, all this type of stuff. And I would just absolutely fucking go and fucking get him. I said, I'll stay there, I'll fucking wait here now. And of course it never happened. I did see George a couple of times after, and he was quite quiet with me, and I pulled him on it, and I says, have you got something to say, George? And he says, well, you threw water over. And I says, well, she fucking threw water over Dave. Oh, I didn't know that. I said, she fucking walked up and threw water in his face in front of everybody. And I says, fuck off. I says, I thought you were a nice guy. Chrissy and him weren't married. They'd been dating for about 20 years. I says, she's nothing but a fucking slag. And I says, and if you're man enough, you'll do something about it. And George just kind of put his hands up. But George is really cool. He was such a nice guy. He liked his spliffs, smoked his dope and stuff, and, drank his beer and that day. And George was a redneck. George is very easygoing, wore a pair of ripped jeans and a t-shirt and walked everywhere in his bare feet. But he was built, he had the fucking hands like shovels. He was just a nice guy. And, George had been in Vietnam. George had been a soldier. I don't know what, if he was special forces or army or marines or something, but he was very, very calm, and he didn't say nothing, and he apologized. And he goes, oh, Dave, I didn't know. He says, I'm really sorry. I didn't know that had happened. Nobody ever told the full story. Nobody ever told the truth. They told their version to make everybody else look bad. And I never spoke to George for a while after that. Never fucking, it was about a year, well over a year, that I'd see Sue again, and even look in her direction. And I was glad I was leaving. Glad I was leaving the island. So Dave and I went downtown. Took him a while. Took him 30, 40 minutes, maybe an hour for him to pick his mood up again. Then we met Dick. I fucking told Dick what happened. Dick hit the roof. You know what I mean? I knew Dick would say something to Sue. I knew Dick would say something, because Dick was one of her big customers, and Dick had known George and Mama Sue for the whole time they'd been in Blaze, 30 years or something like that, And Dick, I knew Dick would say something to Sue, and it kind of wasn't in there. So I didn't really realise the depth of shit that David was living in, and how depressed he was, and and how beaten down he was. He was like Humpty Dumpty that fell off the wall. You know what I mean? His head was cracked, and he was at that lowest point in his life where I don't think he knew how to deal with things. I'd never seen him like that before. But we had a good night, and he'd had a few drinks, and I think we ended up, leaving town about 3 a.m, and we ran into Patojo, and Patojo said hello to David, and Dave said hello back again, and he said hello to Dick, and I just fucking ignored him. But we got Dave safely back to the house, got him inside, he locked the door, and he went to bed, and that was that. And the next morning then we were away on the Manta 4.